The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting soft streaks of light across the room as I propped myself up on one elbow, watching Megan bustle around the bedroom. Her auburn hair fell in loose waves, a style she didn't often wear on ordinary days. But today was different. Today, she was leaving for a 5-day work conference in Chicago. "Are you sure you've packed everything?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. I couldn't help but notice the delicate lace lingerie she was carefully folding and tucking into her suitcase, part of the set I'd given her for our anniversary just a month ago. "I think so," Megan replied, her smile soft but distant. 5 days in Chicago. I just want to be prepared for anything. I chuckled, trying to shake off the strange feeling gnawing at me. "Taking the special occasion stuff, I see?" Her cheeks flushed slightly as she shrugged. "You never know. Could have a fancy dinner or something." There was something off, though I couldn't put my finger on it. She'd spent an extra 20 minutes on her makeup this morning, meticulously applying eyeshadow and mascara usually reserved for date nights. Even the way she spritzed herself with that expensive perfume, the one that always reminded me of lazy Sunday mornings tangled in bedsheets, felt deliberate. "You're going all out for this conference," I observed casually, folding my arms. "Just want to make a good impression," she replied, avoiding my gaze as she zipped up her suitcase. I didn't push it. This was Megan, my wife, my best friend, the woman I trusted more than anyone. The knot in my stomach had to be some overblown reaction, right? "All set." I forced a smile. "Yeah." She wheeled her suitcase to the door and leaned in, pressing her lips to mine in a kiss that lingered just a second longer than usual. "I'll call you every night, I promise." I watched from the window as she loaded the suitcase into her car, waving at me before disappearing down the street. The house felt hollow in her absence, the silence settling like a weight on my chest. Shaking off the melancholy, I headed to the kitchen, made some coffee, and sat at the dining table to grade papers. But peace didn't last long. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. I expected it to be Megan, letting me know she'd arrived safely at the airport, but the number was unknown. Curious, I opened the message. "Your wife isn't who you think she is. Check the guest list for the Palmer Hotel." My blood ran cold. "What the hell?" I muttered, staring at the screen. Some kind of scam? A prank? I tried to brush it off, but the words kept bouncing around my head, refusing to be ignored. With a sigh, I set the papers aside and grabbed my laptop. It wouldn't hurt to check, right? Just to put my mind at ease. Pulling up the hotel's website, I found the event registration page and typed in Megan's name. The response came back quickly, like a punch to the gut. "No attendees found matching your search." I blinked, my heart thundering in my chest. Maybe I'd spelled something wrong? I tried again, triple-checking the details before hitting submit. No attendees found. That knot in my stomach tightened into something darker. As I scrolled through our shared calendar, I saw her conference marked clearly. But beneath the listing was something else. A private note titled A&M's Special Project. My breath hitched. And Adam Reeves, the new PE teacher Megan had been spending way too much time with. I sat back in my chair, the walls of our home suddenly closing in around me. The buzzing anxiety turned into something more sinister. Was it possible? I didn't have answers yet, but one thing was certain. I was about to find out. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while my mind churned through every possibility. Could it be a coincidence? Had she really just forgotten to register her name for the conference? That seemed unlikely. Megan was meticulous, borderline obsessive when it came to planning. She didn't just forget things. And then there was A&M's Special Project. Adam Reeves. The name echoed in my head like a bad song stuck on repeat. I tried to recall every interaction I'd seen between them. A few weeks ago, I'd bumped into them in the school parking lot. Megan had laughed at something he said, the kind of laugh that used to be reserved for our inside jokes. Back then, I hadn't thought much of it. Now, every memory felt tainted. By 5 a.m., I was up, sipping coffee and scrolling through the Palmer Hotel's social media pages. I clicked through photos of previous conferences, scrolling aimlessly until I landed on something that made my stomach drop. A recent post featuring the hotel's grand ballroom, decorated for a private event. The caption read, "Welcome, attendees of the A&M corporate retreat." I leaned back in my chair, gripping the mug like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. My mind raced. A&M's special project wasn't some cryptic work assignment. It was a cover for a romantic getaway. I couldn't sit around and play detective from home. I needed to see this with my own eyes. By 10 a.m., I was in my car, speeding down the highway toward Chicago. It wasn't a short drive, but adrenaline was my fuel, and the hours passed in a blur. I barely remembered stopping for gas or grabbing a coffee along the way. I only had one destination in mind, the Palmer Hotel. When I finally pulled into the hotel's parking garage, I sat in the car for a moment, gathering my thoughts. My heart pounded against my ribs, but I didn't have the luxury of nerves. I had come too far. Inside the hotel lobby, the scent of expensive leather and fresh flowers hit me. Business people shuffled past, briefcases in hand, while a few tourists snapped photos of the grand staircase. I walked toward the front desk, my footsteps echoing on the marble floor. The woman behind the desk greeted me with a practiced smile. "Welcome to the Palmer Hotel. How can I help you?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Hi, I'm looking for someone staying here. My wife, Megan Wilson. I think she might have checked in last night." Her fingers danced across the keyboard. "Let me see. I'm not seeing a reservation under that name. Could it be listed under someone else?" I hesitated. If she was here with Adam, maybe she'd checked in under his name. My pulse quickened as I said, "Try Adam Reeves." She typed again and nodded. "Ah yes, Mr. Reeves checked in yesterday. Would you like me to ring the room?" "No," I blurted out. "That's okay. I'll surprise them." I forced a smile and turned away before she could ask more questions. My mind raced as I walked toward the elevator bank. They're here, together. On the ride up, I stared at my reflection in the mirrored walls, wondering what the hell I'd do when I saw them. Was I ready for this? Could I handle the truth if it slapped me in the face? The elevator dinged, pulling me from my thoughts. The hallway was quiet, the thick carpet muffling my footsteps as I walked toward the room number I'd memorized from the desk clerk's computer screen. Room 814. I stood outside the door for a moment, listening. Nothing. Just the distant hum of the air conditioning. My hand trembled as I raised it to knock, but before I could, the door handle turned. I jumped back, ducking into the alcove by the ice machine just as the door swung open. Adam stepped into the hallway, his shirt untucked and hair a mess. He looked over his shoulder and grinned at someone inside the room. "Be right back, babe," he said, his voice dripping with smugness. "Babe." My fists clenched, but I forced myself to stay hidden as he disappeared around the corner. I waited for the elevator doors to close behind him before stepping out of my hiding spot. The door to room 814 hadn't shut all the way. I pushed it open gently, praying the hinges wouldn't betray me. The room was dimly lit, curtains drawn against the daylight. The smell of her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, hung in the air like a cruel reminder of everything I was about to lose. And then I saw her. Megan was standing by the window, wrapped in one of the hotel's plush white robes, her back to me as she scrolled through her phone. Her damp hair clung to her neck, and the faint sound of the shower running in the bathroom confirmed what I already knew. I wanted to speak, to confront her right then and there, but my voice was trapped somewhere between rage and heartbreak. My fingers itched to grab the phone and see if there was any proof of her betrayal. Instead, I took a step back, careful not to make a sound as I slipped out of the room. I needed more than just suspicion. I needed undeniable proof. And when I got it, Megan would have no idea what hit her. I drove aimlessly through downtown Chicago, my knuckles white as I gripped the steering wheel. My mind raced in circles, replaying the image of Megan standing in that hotel room like some cruel film on repeat. The robe, the damp hair, the man leaving the room, calling her babe. I didn't want to believe what I'd seen, but the truth was a bitter pill, lodging itself deep in my chest. This wasn't just a fling. The way Adam had grinned, the way Megan had been so comfortable, it wasn't new. This was something that had been simmering under my nose for who knew how long. I pulled into a side street and parked, turning off the engine to think. Confronting her now wouldn't accomplish anything. She'd deny it, twist it, maybe even cry until I questioned my own sanity. No, I needed to be smarter. I needed evidence. And when I had it, she wouldn't be able to gaslight her way out of this. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a text from Megan. Landed safely. Love you. I'll call later tonight. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. She was still playing the role of the doting wife. Still lying through her teeth. A wave of nausea rolled over me, but instead of responding, I took a deep breath and opened a browser on my phone. If Adam was dumb enough to use the same hotel for their special project, maybe he was dumb enough to leave a digital trail. I started with Megan's email. We shared a laptop at home, so I already knew her password. Typing it into her webmail, I held my breath as the inbox loaded. There was the usual clutter: work emails, online shopping confirmations, newsletters she never read, but nothing suspicious. I was about to give up when I noticed something in the drafts folder. Weekend escape itinerary Adam. My heart pounded as I clicked it open. Inside was a detailed breakdown of their plans. Friday night dinner at Lou Bernardine. Saturday morning couples massage at the spa. Sunday wine tasting. Attached to the email was a reservation confirmation for the hotel, booked under Adam's name. My vision blurred, tears stinging my eyes as the reality of it hit me. She hadn't even bothered to delete the evidence. I saved the email to my phone and wiped my eyes, willing myself to stay calm. There was more digging to do. I pulled into a coffee shop a few blocks away from the hotel, ordered the strongest brew they had, and set up my laptop at a corner table. My next step was to check our bank accounts. If Megan and Adam had been carrying on for this long, there had to be financial breadcrumbs. I logged into our joint account and scrolled through the recent transactions. Grocery store, gas stations, a charge at a home goods store. Nothing unusual. But when I switched over to Megan's personal credit card, the one tied to her inheritance, things took a darker turn. There it was. $500 at a boutique lingerie shop. $400 at a luxury hotel in the city 2 weeks ago. A $1,200 withdrawal at an ATM near Adam's apartment. The charges lined up too perfectly to be coincidences. The lingerie wasn't for me. The weekend getaway wasn't with me. The money wasn't being spent on us. I felt sick, but I pushed past it, determined to see this through. I took screenshots of the charges and emailed them to myself, creating a digital folder of every piece of evidence I'd gathered so far. When I finished, I sat back and stared at the screen, my mind spinning with questions. How long has this been going on? How could she do this to me? My phone buzzed again. Another text from Megan. Heading to my meeting now. Miss you already, Redheart. I clenched my jaw, fury surging through me. It was unbelievable how easily she lied. How effortlessly she played the role of the devoted wife. I typed back a short reply, miss you too, but inside, I was screaming. I knew what my next move had to be. I couldn't just sit around waiting for more clues to fall into my lap. If Megan and Adam had booked a couple's massage, there was a good chance they'd be there right now. I grabbed my things, left the coffee shop, and headed back to the hotel. The spa was located on the second floor, tucked away in a corner of the building. The air smelled like eucalyptus and lavender, soft music playing from hidden speakers. I approached the receptionist, my pulse hammering in my ears. Hi, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm supposed to meet my wife for a massage. She checked in under Adam Reeves. The woman smiled and scanned her computer. Ah yes, they just went back a few minutes ago. Would you like me to let them know you're here? No, that's okay, I said quickly. I just need to grab something from her. She gestured toward a hallway lined with private treatment rooms. Room 6, on the left. I nodded, my heart threatening to explode as I walked down the hall. Each step felt heavier than the last. I stopped outside room 6, hearing muffled voices and soft laughter through the door. My fingers curled into fists. I didn't knock. I didn't wait. I twisted the handle and pushed the door open. Inside, Megan was lying on a massage table, a white sheet draped over her lower half. Adam stood beside her, his hands frozen mid-rub as he stared at me in shock. Megan's eyes widened. "Jack?" she gasped, sitting up and clutching the sheet to her chest. My gaze bounced between them, taking in the intimate setup, the candles, the wine glasses on the side table, the unmistakable air of betrayal that hung in the room. "I guess the conference ended early," I said coldly. Neither of them spoke. They didn't have to. Their guilt was written all over their faces. This wasn't the confrontation I had planned, but in that moment I didn't care. Megan had been caught, and there was no escaping the fallout now. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating, like the weight of everything Megan and I had built crashing down around us. She sat there, her mouth opening and closing as if trying to form the perfect excuse. Adam looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Well," I said, my voice cold, even though inside, I was barely holding it together. "Is this where you tell me it's not what it looks like?" Megan's lips trembled, and for a second, I thought she'd burst into tears. But she didn't. She tightened the sheet around her body and whispered, "Jack, I can explain." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed off the walls. "Explain what, exactly? That you've been lying to my face for God knows how long? That you planned a romantic weekend with him and didn't even bother to cover your tracks?" I shook my head, the rage bubbling to the surface. "Go ahead, Megan. I'm all ears." She stood up, the sheet still wrapped around her like a makeshift shield. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant for you to find out." "That's your excuse?" My voice rose and Adam flinched. "Not that you didn't do it, but that you got caught?" She swallowed hard, her eyes darting between me and Adam. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how." "You didn't know how?" I took a step closer, the distance between us shrinking along with any shred of patience I had left. "That's funny, because lying seemed to come pretty naturally to you." "Jack, please." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I fell in love with, the woman I'd shared 10 years of my life with. But that image shattered the second I saw Adam out of the corner of my eye, shifting uncomfortably like the coward he was. I turned to him, my fists clenched at my sides. "You've got nothing to say, Adam? Or do you only have the courage to sneak around behind my back?" He opened his mouth but quickly shut it when he saw the look on my face. "That's what I thought," I said, the venom in my voice making him step back. "You're pathetic." "Jack," Megan pleaded, her voice desperate. "I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything." My chest tightened. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to cling to the idea that this could be salvaged, that maybe, just maybe, we could fix what was broken. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the pain coursing through me didn't feel like something a simple apology could cure. "It didn't mean anything?" I repeated, laughing again. "A weekend getaway, secret messages, lingerie. None of that meant anything?" I took another step toward her, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell me, Megan, did you wear the anniversary set I bought you for him too?" Tears streamed down her face now, but I didn't care. I couldn't afford to. "I love you," she choked out, her voice barely audible. "I know I messed up, but I love you, Jack. Please believe that." The words stabbed me like a knife, but instead of weakening me, they fueled my anger. "You don't cheat on someone you love," I said through gritted teeth. "You don't lie to them. You don't sneak off to a hotel and share a bed with someone else." Adam shifted again, and I shot him a glare. "You should leave," I said. He blinked, as if unsure he'd heard me correctly. "Now," I growled, taking a step toward him. "Before I make you." Adam scrambled to grab his shirt, slipping it on as he bolted out the door without another word. The sound of it slamming shut echoed behind him, leaving Megan and me alone in the wreckage of what was supposed to be our life together. Her sobs filled the room, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. Instead, I walked to the window, staring out at the city below as I tried to calm the storm raging inside me. The skyscrapers blurred in the distance as tears threatened to fall, but I refused to let them. "Jack," she whispered behind me, her voice broken. Please don't give up on us. I turned around slowly, meeting her tear-streaked gaze. Why, Megan? I asked, my voice softer now but no less devastating. Why him? What did he have that I didn't? She shook her head. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about you. I felt lost, and Adam made me feel. Don't, I said, cutting her off. Don't you dare say he made you feel alive or whatever cliché excuse you're about to throw at me. I was there, Megan. I was right there every single day, and you could have come to me. But you didn't. Her shoulders shook as she cried harder, and part of me wanted to take her in my arms and tell her everything would be okay. But it wouldn't. I knew that now. I'm going home, I said, grabbing my jacket from the chair by the door. Wait. She ran toward me, grabbing my arm. Jack, please, don't walk away. We can fix this. I looked down at her hand on my arm, the same hand I used to hold while we lay in bed, dreaming of a future together. But now all I felt was betrayal. I don't think we can, I said, pulling away. I walked out of the hotel room without looking back, the sound of her sobs following me down the hallway. As I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the lobby, the weight of everything finally hit me. Megan had been my world, but that world had come crashing down in the most spectacular fashion. And now I had to figure out how to survive the wreckage. I didn't go home right away. Couldn't. Instead, I parked at a random gas station on the outskirts of town, the car still running as I sat there in the dim glow of the streetlights. My mind replayed every moment from the past few hours. The look on Megan's face when I walked into that room, Adam's cowardly retreat, her desperate plea for forgiveness. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. How had I been so blind? The clues had been there all along. Her sudden interest in looking good, the late nights at work, the secrecy around her phone. But I trusted her. That was the part that stung the most. The phone buzzed on the passenger seat, and for a second, I considered ignoring it. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, got the better of me. It was Megan. Jack, please, can we talk? Just once before you decide anything. I'm begging you. I locked the screen and tossed the phone onto the dash, staring at the empty road ahead. Talking wouldn't change what she'd done. But the thing was, I needed more than just an emotional meltdown to move forward. I needed to know everything. The how, the when, the why. I opened the glove compartment, pulling out the small notebook I always kept for emergencies. On the first blank page, I wrote down 3 things. Timeline, when did it start? How long has this been going on? Motive, why Adam? Why now? Was it something I did? Or didn't do? The endgame, was this just an affair? Or was she planning something bigger? I stared at the list, tapping my pen against the steering wheel. If I was going to confront her again, I needed answers to these questions. And I wasn't going to wait for her to hand them to me on a silver platter. The next morning, I parked outside our house, still unsure if I could walk through that door. The home that once felt like a safe haven now felt suffocating, like it would swallow me whole the moment I stepped inside. I finally gathered the courage and walked in. The air inside was thick, too quiet, like the house itself was holding its breath. I could hear faint sounds from upstairs, the shower running, the muffled hum of Megan moving around. I considered heading straight for the bedroom, demanding answers, but something stopped me. Instead, I walked into her home office. Megan kept everything here, work files, personal papers, and, more importantly, her laptop. I hesitated for a moment before sitting down and opening it. Her password hadn't changed, and within seconds, I was scrolling through her emails again, looking for anything I hadn't already seen. Most of it was routine, but then I stumbled upon a folder labeled A&M Projects. Inside were dozens of emails exchanged between Megan and Adam, dating back at least 8 months. 8 months. My heart sank as I skimmed through their messages, each one worse than the last. Adam, can't wait for the weekend getaway. I booked the suite with the private balcony, just like you wanted. Megan, I need this, babe. It's been too hard hiding this from him. Adam, soon we won't have to. Just say the word. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The way she talked to him, The intimacy, the ease, it was like reading messages from a stranger. This wasn't the woman I thought I knew. And then I found the message that changed everything. Megan, Jack is getting suspicious. We need to be careful. Adam, don't worry. We've come this far. Just keep him in the dark a little longer. I leaned back in the chair, my mind racing. They knew. They knew I was close to figuring it out, and instead of stopping, they doubled down. My stomach churned, but I kept scrolling, hoping to find something. Anything. That could explain why she'd done this. That's when I saw an attachment titled futureplans.pdf. I clicked it open, and my breath hitched. It wasn't just a random document, it was a plan. A detailed breakdown of how Megan and Adam would start fresh once she left me. It included everything from her exit strategy to the logistics of splitting our assets. Step 1. File for divorce after Jack pays off the remaining balance on the mortgage. Step 2. Move in with Adam temporarily before purchasing a new home. Step 3. Transfer joint savings into my personal account. Couldn't breathe. This wasn't just infidelity, this was premeditated betrayal. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning to leave me once I'd finished paying for the life she wanted to start with him. I heard the shower shut off upstairs, and panic set in. I quickly emailed the document to myself, deleted the email from the sent folder, and shut the laptop. My hands shook as I grabbed my notebook and scribbled down what I'd found. The shower door creaked open, and I heard her humming softly as she moved around the bedroom. My vision blurred, but I blinked back the tears. Not now. I walked into the kitchen, making sure my face was neutral by the time she came down the stairs. She was wearing leggings and an oversized sweater, her damp hair pulled into a messy bun. The same casual, carefree look that once made me fall for her. Now it just made me sick. "Morning," she said softly, like nothing had happened. I gritted my teeth. "Morning." She poured herself a cup of coffee, the silence between us growing heavier with each passing second. Finally, she set the mug down and looked at me, her eyes red and swollen from crying all night. "Jack, I know you hate me right now," she whispered. "But can we talk?" I stared at her, the woman I had loved for a decade, the woman who had shared my bed, my dreams, and my life. And I realized that whatever version of Megan I had loved no longer existed. "We'll talk," I said, my voice cold. "But not here. And not yet." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" I grabbed my keys and opened the front door. "I need time to figure out what you've done to us, Megan. And when I'm ready, you'll know." She called after me, but I didn't look back. As the door slammed behind me, I walked toward my car, knowing one thing for certain. When I came back, it wouldn't be for a conversation. It would be for justice. I spent the next 2 days in a whirlwind of preparation. Megan had woven a web of lies, and I wasn't about to let her spin anymore. I had the emails, the financial records, and that damning PDF detailing their little plan. But something still didn't sit right. She wasn't just leaving me for Adam. She was using me, timing her exit to coincide with the final payment on our mortgage, transferring our joint savings into her personal account. And Adam, that smug bastard, had been ready to slide in like this was some business transaction. But there was one thing I still needed to know. Had she ever loved me at all? Or had it all been an act from the start? I sat in my car outside her favorite cafe, watching through the window as she sat at a table for two. She wasn't alone. Adam was there, leaning in close, whispering something that made her smile, the same smile that used to be reserved for me. I clenched the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. They'd crossed a line when they decided to build their future on the ruins of my life. My phone buzzed, and I glanced down. It was a message from the private investigator I'd hired the morning after leaving Megan in that hotel room. I opened the message and scanned the contents, my blood boiling as I read the summary. "Megan and Adam have been meeting regularly for the past year. He's been paying for hotel rooms, but the funds came from Megan's inheritance account. Additionally, Megan has recently spoken with a divorce attorney about a no-contest settlement, citing irreconcilable differences. The kicker: she's already made inquiries about buying a property out of state." Adam would be moving with her. I slammed my fist against the dashboard. A year. An entire year of lies. Sneaking around. Planning a life without me while I worked overtime to give her the life she had now. I thought back to the night she came home late, smelling like perfume and wine, and how she'd brushed me off when I asked where she'd been. Just a work dinner, she'd said. Nothing to worry about. I could still hear the dismissiveness in her tone, the ease with which she'd lied to me. I wasn't just going to confront them, I was going to dismantle everything they'd built, piece by piece. The next morning, I met with my lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Rachel who had a reputation for being ruthless in divorce cases. I showed her everything, the emails, the financial transactions, the PDF with their future plans. Her eyes widened slightly as she skimmed through the documents, but she quickly composed herself. "You've got them by the throat," she said, leaning back in her chair. "With this evidence, we can go after everything. Assets, alimony, even punitive damages for emotional distress." "Good," I said, my voice hard. "I don't want her walking away with a dime more than she's entitled to. And Adam? I want him buried." Rachel smirked. "We'll handle him too. He's been complicit, and if we can prove he had financial involvement, like planning to use joint funds for their new life together, we can hit him with civil charges." I nodded, the weight on my chest lifting slightly. But there was still one more thing I needed to do before everything went public. I needed to hear it from her. I needed to give her one last chance to tell me the truth, even if it wouldn't change the outcome. That evening, I walked into the house, the air heavy with tension. Megan was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta on the stove. She turned when she heard the door, her eyes lighting up with relief. "Jack," she said softly, wiping her hands on a towel. "You came back." I didn't say anything as I set my keys on the counter and leaned against the doorway, watching her like she was some stranger who had broken into my life. "Did you think I wouldn't?" I asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "I didn't know what to expect. I've been a mess since you left." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. "You've been a mess for 2 days, Megan. I've been a mess for months." Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I saw the woman I used to love. The woman who cried when we bought our first house together, who laughed at my terrible jokes, who held me when I lost my father. But that woman was gone, buried under layers of deceit. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I pulled out my phone and opened the email with the PDF attachment, holding it up for her to see. "So this wasn't meant to hurt me?" Her eyes widened as she recognized the document, and she took a step back, shaking her head. "Jack, don't," I said, my voice cracking. "Don't tell me you didn't mean it. Don't tell me you were confused or lost or whatever excuse you've come up with." I wiped my hand down my face, trying to stay calm. "I trusted you. I built a life with you, and this is how you repay me." She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. "I didn't plan for it to go this far. But it did." I stepped closer, my voice a low growl. "And now you're going to pay for it." She lowered her hands, her tear-streaked face desperate. "Please, Jack, don't do this. We can fix this. I'll end it with Adam. I'll do whatever it takes." I shook my head. "You ended us the moment you chose him over me." Before she could say another word, I turned and walked toward the door. As I reached for the handle, I looked back one last time. "Don't worry, Megan," I said. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon." Her sobs echoed through the house as I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I didn't feel relief. Not yet. But I knew one thing for sure: Megan's lies were finally unraveling. And soon, she'd feel every consequence she had coming. The divorce papers hit Megan like a thunderclap. No alimony, no joint savings, and evidence stacked against her. She didn't call or text. She knew there was no point. But I had one last move to make. I met Adam at a downtown diner. He thought I'd be there to talk things out. He was wrong. I slid a folder across the table, filled with emails, financial records, and proof of their affair. "I can ruin you," I said calmly. "Or, you can walk away from Megan and disappear." His face paled. "And if I don't?" I leaned in, Then everyone, your employers, Megan's family, will know what you've done. Your choice. He nodded, defeated. Fine. I'll leave her. I walked out knowing I just ripped their fantasy apart. A week later, Megan came by to gather her things. I wish it didn't have to end like this, she whispered. You made that choice, I replied. Before leaving, she asked, do you think you'll ever forgive me? I didn't hesitate.
No.
Her shoulders dropped, and she walked out the door without another word. Months passed. I sold the house and bought a smaller one, simple but mine. I started running again, rediscovering the version of myself I'd lost. One morning, Megan emailed me to apologize. I typed back, I already have what I need, my freedom. Take care. As I stepped outside into the crisp morning air, I breathed deeply, letting go of the last pieces of the life we had built. I wasn't just moving on. I was free.